Here we go. We're going to prove lines are parallel. So we're going to talk a little bit about, remember our conditional statement, if then. So before we said if two lines are parallel and cut by a transversal, then alternating angles are congruent and, a medley of those angles. Now we're going to be looking at the converse. So now, if P then Q was our statement. If lines are parallel cut by a transversal, then certain things happen. Now we're going to say the opposite. If Q, then P. So now we're taking the converse and we're saying if two lines are cut by transversal so that a pair of corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So it's very, very similar. We're going to solve X the same way. We're going to look at alternating interior, alternating exterior, all these different kinds of pairs of angles. But I want you to keep in mind that we're talking about the converse. So we are reversing that conditional statement. So here's what I mean. If we look at this diagram over here, and I want to use the corresponding angles converse, if two lines are cut by transversal so that a pair of corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So if I look at angles 1 and 5, so my example is that if angle 1 is congruent to angle 5, then L is parallel to M. Okay, so that's how that works. So if those angles are congruent, then our lines are parallel. Same thing with alternating interior angles converse. If angle 4 and angle 6 are congruent, then L is parallel to M. Okay? Alternating exterior. If angle 1 is congruent to angle 7, then line L is parallel to M. Okay, so do you see what I'm doing here? Consecutive interior angles converse. So if angle 4 plus angle 5 is equal to 180 degrees because supplementary angles, then L is parallel to M. Consecutive exterior angles converse. If angle 1 plus angle 8 is equal to 180, then L is parallel to M. Okay, so that's what the converse statement says. It's just alternating my original conditional statement. So determine if L and M are parallel based on the information given. Well, yes, they are parallel because of alternating exterior angles. Okay, so that's what it's asking you to do here. Alternate exterior angles converse. We have to put that in there. Yes, they are parallel because this is corresponding angles converse. And notice I'm abbreviating, you cannot. Look at number 4. I know that these are vertical angles, but there is no vertical angle converse. So my answer here is no. I don't know that L and M are parallel to each other. Do these guys add up to 180? They do. So yes, it's going to be consecutive exterior angles converse. Here, same thing. Yes, alternating interior angles converse. And here is no, because they do not add up to 180 degrees. All right, so let's look real quick at this back page. My given statement says that angle 4 is congruent to angle 4, angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. So my parallel lines then are going to be C and D, and the converse is going to be corresponding angles. Corresponding angles. And notice I'm not putting converse there because that's already included in that column. So if you look at angles 5 and 10, those are alternating interior, and we're talking about A and B makes those alternating interior, and that's alternating interior. Angle 1 and 13 here, so now we're talking about parallel lines being A and B, and then that's the consecutive exterior. Consecutive exterior. Angle 1 and 14 are congruent to each other, and that's talking about lines A and B being parallel, and that's alternating exterior converse. 14 and 15 right here So 14 and 15 are adding up to 180. Then we know that lines C and D are parallel, and that's consecutive interior. Angle 11 and 16, all we know about angles 11 and 16 is that that's vertical angles. So there is no relationship, and I can't make a converse because vertical angles aren't a converse statement. 4 and 15, so 4 and 15 alternating exterior, which is making lines A and B parallel, alternating exterior. 10 and 12, those are consecutive corresponding angles, making lines C and D, and corresponding angles. 9 and 13, if I look at 9 and 13, that's adding up to 180, but that's just a linear pair. That doesn't tell me anything. So I'm going to say no on that with a line through it. 2 and 7, alternating interior angles, which is making C and D parallel. And angle 6 and 11, so 6 and 11, there's no relationship there. No relationship there, okay? So that's what that looks like. Hopefully that is real familiar to what you talked about, what we've already talked about, but you can see how we're saying the conditional statement. Okay, so on this one, I want you to pause it, and I want you to give me your answers here, and then I will tell you super, super fast, okay? So hopefully you're back. All right, so here we go. You come on in. So A here, this is going to be Q and R, and my reason here is alternating exterior. You can come in. B is going to be P is parallel to Q, and that's consecutive interior. Guys, I'm about to wrap this up. Angle 1 and 17. 1 and 17 is P is going to be parallel to R, and that reason is corresponding angles. 16 and 20. 16 and 20 are alternating interior, so it's going to be Q and R, alternating interior. Angle 2 plus angle 22 are supplementary angles, so that's going to make P and R parallel to each other, and that's consecutive exterior. Angle 10 and 13, angle 10 is congruent to 13, and that is no relationship. There's nothing there that talks about 10 and 13. Angle 3 and angle 22, angle 3 and 22 are corresponding angles, so that's going to make P parallel to R, and that's corresponding angles. Angle 5 and 15, 5 and 15 alternating, alternating exterior angles, so that's P and Q are parallel, and that's alternating exterior. Angle 2 plus 16, so 2 is here, where's 16? 16 is here. There is no relationship between those, so no relationship on that. All right. So real quick on number 9, the last thing, and then I'll cut this video off. If P is parallel to Q and Q is parallel to R, then P is going to be parallel to R. So that's that transitive property that we've seen before. So if A is parallel to C, state which other lines are parallel and why. B is going to be parallel to C. Consecutive exterior angles are supplementary. And A is going to be parallel to B, and that's the transitive property of parallel lines. So hopefully that's what you got. If you have questions, come and see me.